Yep, you just have to click that on. Perfect.
Thank you for setting this up.
Of course. It takes a minute for it to warm up
I get the same
behind
one,
you,
no
but
problem. Yeah. It's coming on. I'm going to promote Tracy Healy to panelist. Hey, Tracy.
Hello, how are you?
Great, thanks. Just, we're going to start in a minute or two, so just bear with us as we get our AV going, okay?
Okay, that sounds great.
Thank you. So Tracy, when you're a panelist now, so you should have the ability to share screen. So when we get, we're just going to open the meeting, and then our first agenda item will be you, and just share your screen, and we can all hear you. We got a speaker for the room here, so.
Mike, can you just make sure that she is a co-host? That's what triggers the screen share. Do you see that option? It's like the 3 dots.
I do.
And it's okay, and then just make her a co-host, and then she should be able to share screen.
Okay, that should be good now. You're muted, Tracy.
I do have the share screen now down at the bottom, so
Okay.
perfect.
All right, so just give us a minute, okay, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Thank you. How's it going? Yeah, it's good. Okay. Let's get going. So we have, since Michelle is on Zoom, why don't we do an attendance? We'll just do a quick virtual. Michelle, I'll start with you, and then we'll go from there.
Okay, Michelle Kirkby here.
Recording in progress.
Oh, Peter Michelson present.
Mike Weber present.
Tony Capantoni is present.
Phil Werner here. Meeting here. John Messina here.
Carolyn Casey here. Teresa James here.
Great. Hang on.
And John. Roll call.
And Leo Brem
Leo
here.
Brem here.
Perfect timing. All right, why don't we kick the meeting off? We have Tracy Healy from Future Think. Her enrollment projection report was included in the meeting packet. So Tracy, I'll hand it off to you. If you could run us through your results, that'd be great.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you for having me tonight. I'll just share my screen. We can go through the report.
Tracy, you want us to save any questions for the end or just interrupt you? What's best for you?
If you want to interrupt me, that's fine. That way we can kind of address things as they come up.
Yeah, that's
I'm
fine.
flexible. So,
Minimize that.
can everyone see the screen? Is that up okay?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So initially we looked at several pieces of data in the enrollment projections. We looked at number of birth counts, obviously historical enrollment. We also took a look at homeschool enrollment, and then some community demographics as well as housing information. So those are really kind of the key components making up the enrollment projection that we did. Initially, is starting off the report, I have some national and state trends just to kind of set the stage a little bit. Here in terms of total number of births across the country, we saw, a dip down in 2020, a slight uptick in 2021 and 22. Just saw a report came out this week saying that now 2023 data looks like it's about 2% down from a nationwide perspective. So that little uptick we saw is probably a result of the pandemic has now fallen off again by about 2% nationwide. This chart or graphic really shows across the country, the change in student pre-K-12 enrollment from the 2009-10 to the 2020-21 school year, which was the last years available for this graph, you can see in terms of Massachusetts saw a 4% decrease in total enrollment over that 10-year window. This next graphic shows what's projected to happen over the 10 years from the 2020-21 to 2030-31 school years. And the state is projected to lose an additional 5% overall. You can see, across the country, most of the states are in this darker and navy blue, which are all losses. Certainly the, Eastern and Midwest experiencing some significant, and even some of the southern states where we had seen increases in enrollment are also expected to see some decreases as well. So again, just some kind of national and state trends. In terms of the historical enrollment, what we've seen in Medfield over the last 10 years is a decrease in 157 students pre-K through 12. However, we've seen a slight uptick in the pre-K 1 and 2-3 grades over that time of about 82 students. So while we've seen overall decline, we've also seen some, most of that decline has been at the middle and high school level. So that's going to play a role as we look in terms of the projections. Also want to point out that last year the kindergarten enrollment was at a low 169, which we'd seen also in 2020, but then had rebounded back to 193 for this current school year. So again, we pay particular attention to the early elementary grades as we're looking at future enrollment projections. So next, took a look at homeschool enrollment, and looking, not surprisingly, the peak was during the pandemic school year at 32. We saw a drop and a little bit of leveling off at 21, 22, the last this year and last year. But as compared to 2017, 18, and 19, and prior to the pandemic, where we were at 2 and 3 students. So, and taking a look at how that's impacting our enrollment. Also, we look at birth counts, and the reason we do this is to give us a pool of students from which to draw for kindergarten 5 to 6 years later. So we'll look at the number of births in the town. We can see for the last 15 years where those have been, ranging from a low of 72 back in 2009 to, we had a high in 2016 at 120, or I'm sorry, in 2021 at 138, and then it dropped again back in 2022. We don't have the 23 numbers yet, but those will be really interesting to see where, if like we're, experiencing nationwide, if that number continues to drop or if it starts to level off a little bit. Also took a look at just some general demographics, kind of what's happening, county and state in terms of per capita household income, poverty level rates, see how that compares, and then as well as just, some general population numbers. We also purchase information from a group called Esri, which is the group that does the ArcGIS, ArcView, and all that mapping. And they gather from a variety of sources information to put together population estimates and projections by census block group. So we looked at the district, rolled up all of the census block groups that make up the Medfield School District, and took a look at that to see, just how, how that compares. So we looked at that in terms of some population as well as some economic indicators. First off, though, we do have what's happening within the state level. Again, it's projected from 2023 to see that 0 to age 18 group drop about 4% projections for the state. Again, we're seeing lower numbers of students. However, it is estimated that the 0 to 4 age group is projected to increase by a little over 8,000 from the 2023 to the 2028 year. So an increase of about 2.5% there. So that's from the state. Here's at the district level, seeing fairly flat in terms of the overall population estimate and projection, increase of about 2% over that 5-year period. And then seeing some decline at that middle and high school level, the age groups 10 to 14 and 15 to 18, and some slight increases here in the 0 to age 9 groups. So again, this is information that I use to help inform my projections. It's nice to see what other kind of agencies and companies are looking at in terms of where they feel things are at. Again, I want to just point out that this includes the total population and the total age, so not just those students who attend Medfield public schools, but all those who reside within the census block groups, whether they go to a private or parochial school or somewhere else. So that's that data. Also took a look at, again, some economic indicators in terms of average household income, family size. First table is the state statistics with the average household income of about $138,000, projected to go up to about $158,000 over that 5-year period. Family size projected to drop by about 1% to 3.06. And total family households projected to increase by about 2% over that 5-year period. In terms of the district, expected to see an increase of 11% at household income. Obviously, quite a bit greater than what we saw at the state, going from about 250,000 to about 277,000 over that 5-year period. Average family size is also a little bit higher than what we see at the state level, but also projected to decrease by about 1% from 3.35 to 3.32. And total family households are expected to increase by about 3% or 100 units over that 5-year period. Based on that, we just kind of mapped those out so you can kind of see, the blue border here is the district. You can see in these darker purples where there's some decline, and then where we're seeing some increases in enrollment are this green and kind of lavender color. This is for the total population over that 5-year window, the expected change. And then this chart, or this map, is looking at the age group of 5 to 18. So again, we can see where the areas of decline are in the northern portions of the district, some areas of increase kind of in the central area, and then more decline in the southern portion. This is looking at the change in the estimated median age. So you can kind of see where, this darker green is where the median age is less than 44 years. And then these other green areas, so really, just under 50 or 48 years of age. And this is how it's expected to increase over time. So you can kind of see that. And then this map shows the current estimated household income, and this shows how that's projected to change over that 5-year period as well. So in terms of housing, we took a look at both the single and multifamily permits that have been issued in the town over the last 11 years here. You can see, single families range between about 12 and 33 over that period of time, and then we've had, kind of little blips in terms of multifamily with 5 or more units as well. Obviously, the big piece of housing under consideration in terms of the work that we're doing in terms of the projections is the Trinity project at the Medfield State Hospital. I had some conversations with Christine at the town about that. Pulled just kind of what they had from the website as part of the discussion, with 334 new apartments, 25% of which are scheduled to be affordable. And based on that, what we're seeing in terms of national averages for multifamily units is about 21 students for every 100 units. So based on that 334, we can expect to see about 70 students from that project as it moves forward. Other piece of data that we look at are it's called the survival ratios, which is just looking at the movement of students grade to grade year by year over the 10-year historical enrollment window. So we can see, like, for K to 1 in this column, on average over the 10-year period, you have about 6% more first graders than you did in kindergarten the previous year. So again, this is just measuring grade to grade, year to year. So you can see, on average, you're picking up students from kindergarten to first grade, or through kindergarten, first grade, all the way through 5th to 6th grade. On average, there was a little bit of drop kind of in the middle school levels and high school levels, but still right around 99%, so not huge drops. But again, so we saw those declines in that historical enrollment and seeing it primarily at the middle and high school level. I mean, it's nothing to be alarmed about. It's right at, but there has been a little bit of loss on average in those grades. But, again, as we're looking at the elementary grades, we're seeing increases. The birth to K, as I had mentioned earlier with the birth counts, what we're looking at is the number of births versus the number of kindergartners 5 years later. So you can see this is, you're getting quite a few more students coming into the district in kindergarten than were born in the district. So on average, about 80% more students in kindergarten than you saw being born in the area. So meaning that people have their children elsewhere, but when they're getting ready to school, they want to come into the Medfield school district, which is a surprise. So anyway, so that's how that looks at. So kind of based on all of this data, we put together 3 sets of projections: a moderate, low, and high projection. This first one is the moderate, which I would recommend is using, for planning purposes at this point in time. It indicates an increase of 182 students in grades pre-K through 12 over the 10-year window. So from just under 2,500 students today to about 2,680 students in the 33-34 school year. And then you can kind of see how that breaks down. Pre-K through 1, increasing up to 465 students. Grades 2 through 3 up to 417. 4 through 5 up to 426. And then we're seeing also some increases at the middle and high school level as a result of these increased elementary school enrollments that we're seeing, over this last few years. Will be hitting, the middle and high school levels as we get out into those out years. So again, we'll see some increases there as well.
Hey
Also
Tracy,
put-
I'm gonna
Yes.
actually interrupt on that data point because I'm a little confused.
Mhm.
Your earlier slides, you had mentioned, this is Teresa James, by the way, that it's really the middle and the high schools that decline, though.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we're saying there's gonna be an increase? Just help me reconcile.
Yes, And that's really a result as we're looking at the elementary schools. Currently, in the last few years, we've seen increases in the elementary school grades. So as those students move their way through the system, when we get into those out years, 8, 9, 10, those kids will be hitting middle and high school. So that's gonna, the kind of just the kids that are already kind of in the system will be hitting those middle and high school grades in the out years of the projections. So that's really what's causing the slight increases we're seeing at the middle and high school levels.
You suggesting
So
it's
the
like a
data
bubble?
earlier went backwards, this data's going forward.
Right, so, I mean, because earlier we were saying that those elementary grades aren't necessarily matriculating up to the middle and the high schools. And so,
Well,
but
they're
here
they're
we're
right
saying
at about
we're flat
100.
going up, so I was confused.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there is a little bit of drop as we looked at, those survival ratios, but they're still right around 100%. So we're getting, more students in these earlier grades, and as they're making their way through, we're not still seeing increases at, from 7 to 8, 8 to 9, 9 to 10. We're seeing, fairly flat. I guess you look at, as we're looking at, 9 to 10, we're seeing a little bit of drop from 10 to 11, like 1 to, handful of students as we're looking at that. But because we're seeing higher, I don't want to make you guys dizzy, but I'll go back here. As we're seeing these increases, pre-K through 1, 2 through 3, 4, as those kids start making their way through, there's going to be larger class sizes, replacing these lower middle and high school levels. Right now, high school's at 175, 176, 185. There's going to be higher numbers of those kids, even though we'll see a couple drop off, but instead of 170s, we're going to see 180s and 190s. So we move forward. Does that help, Teresa?
Yeah, I think I've gotta digest a little.
Okay, it is a lot, and I'm sorry, I'm throwing a lot of information at you, so,
Can I? So
Go back
I went
to-
back to page 6.
page 6,
I did, and I went forward years. So like if you look at the kids in kindergarten, where they'll be in 10 years and compare those two. Like I kind of just took these grades and moved them forward, looking at the projections, years moving forward, and then looking at those percentages and how they changed. Does that make sense? It's like I'm looking at, for example, this year's kindergartners, there's 193, but like 12th and 11th grade, you're at 175, 185. So I'm just like, I'm looking at those early years and seeing how I'm making them older. Does that make any sense? And then using the retention percentage rates sort of to see.
Yeah.
And then did you put the 71 kids that are projected? I don't know when the hospital property will be done, but when you were
Yeah,
saying
we tried
71,
to-
were those put into that projection as well or no?
right. Yeah, those students are included in the moderate and the high projections, not so much in the low projection. But looking, assume both the moderate and high, assume that those will develop and at the rates that we did. And primarily, putting those kids in, elementary grade, grades K through 5. Parents are more likely to move in lower grades than moving their high school students. So again, trying to put them in there as well. Okay. So if we take a look, we also looked at low and high projections. So the low shows slight decline of students, 21 over the 10-year period. So really just kind of a flat projection, assuming nothing much changes and we're just kind of, in a steady state. this being right around that 2,500 student window. Again, some increases, at the early elementary grades, a slight decline in grades 4 through 5, upper little decline at 6, 8, and 9, 12. So again, the same, we're not going to retain those students at the same rates. And really in lower birth numbers here. Lower kindergarten numbers based on the number of births. And then the high projection shows an increase of 477 students for that period of time. So assuming that it goes well with Trinity, that we do see maybe more students than what the national average would anticipate of that 70. Over if interest rates go down, we see some more, affordable options and greater housing inventory. This is kind of what the high projection has. So again, increases across the board. The pre-K 1 going up to 488 students. Grades 2 through 3 up to 455, 474 for grades 4 through 5. And then middle at 719 and high school at 839 students. So again, as we move forward, kind of things to keep an eye on are the birth counts, seeing how those continue to come in. The enrollment, of course, at the elementary school levels is really going to be key as we look at that, and then of course what happens with Trinity development, and then if there are any other developments that happen in the future. So want to kind of keep an eye on all of those things, as they will have impact on the projections and kind of guide whether we're looking at high, moderate, and low in terms of that.
And Tracy, just to reiterate your point, what you said earlier, for planning purposes, I know you don't have a crystal ball, but typically you recommend using moderate
Yes.
scale? Okay.
Yeah, we do, and it kind of assumes that, what's in place is going to continue to happen. So right now, even though we're kind of at, housing, Fed said today they're going to keep the interest rates, where they are right now. So it's kind of assuming things are going to continue at, kind of what we've seen historically. The low and high are assuming, obviously lower rates, lower birth counts, higher interest rates, and then the high projection is assuming higher birth counts, lower interest rates, and growth as far as housing.
Tracy, can I ask another reconciliation question? Sorry
Sure.
to be in the weeds. Like the data on 15, or sorry, it's page 12 of the document, it's a 15-year packet.
12.
So if you go here, if you want to call it like 15 to 18-year-olds, essentially like the high school cohort, we show that declines by 16% from 23 to projected 28. But then when you go down to like the matrix that you were just on of the projections, the moderate case, and you look at that same like 9th to 12th grade cohort,
Right.
and you look at just the 23 column to the 28 column, it actually increases. How do you reconcile that?
Well, one, there's, again, that includes everyone that lives in the district, not just those students who are in the public school system. So that kind of includes everyone. And again, I use that data to kind of help inform the projections. It's not like a straight, it's not something I plug into like the formula or whatever, but I'd like to take a look at what they're saying is going to happen. If we look at, we're seeing like a little bit in that 5-year period, a little bit of decline, but at the middle school level, but it's slight increase at the high school level. And again, I'm attributing, some of that to, if we go back to where we're seeing some of these increases here in terms of the enrollment as they make their way through, like this 407, those fourth, fifth graders are gonna be in there, this increase that we're seeing,
Yeah, again, I almost feel like,
kind of push that.
I feel like this is, well, my intuition is that this is more right than the 12 is, because like a 15% decrease in a cohort is like massive.
Mhm.
So that
Yes.
feels like it's a little too outside of
Right.
normal kind of
Yeah,
projection.
yeah, definitely.
Come.
Tracy, this is Teresa again. I have a question. In your recommendation, you had said, keep your eye on the live birth rate. And I assume you mean what we're looking for is that it's not deviating far, the live birth rates,
Mhm.
from what we're seeing historically in the last, let's say, 3 years. Because earlier you had also said that 80% or more are born elsewhere. So
Right.
it's not, what we're really watching the live birth rate is that it stays just kind of consistent in that range. It's not.
Yeah, and that as it compares to your kindergarten enrollment. So, if we're, seeing, like if, again, like say, if birth counts drop back down to like 72, where they were in 2009, comparing that to what your kindergarten is, does that ratio go up even greater? Is kindergarten stabilizing, or are you seeing a decline in your kindergarten enrollment as a result of that? So it's really kind of in tandem, both watching the birth counts as well as the relationship of those counts to your kindergarten enrollment.
Try to draw like a 20-mile radius around Medfield and look at that birth count, because that's where the 80% is probably most of the source.
Right.
Right. Right.
So Tracy, when you do this, do you look into back as far as the 90s, or like from 2000 to 2008 or 9 for the enrollment?
Not really. It's, there were so many things going on in terms of that, and those kids are all gone from the system. So, we don't have any like cohorts to follow. So we don't really find it to be that relevant as far as projection.
Can I just ask, Jeff, I don't know if you know this, maybe I'm remembering wrong, but wasn't the enrollment around 3,000 for that kind of period? The late 90s, 2000 to maybe 2008 or 9?
It was
Yeah,
bigger.
It was definitely up around 3,000 for several years.
Okay, all right, I just want to know if I was remembering that correctly. Okay, so this, even the high projection is not going to where we were at a point in this report.
That's what I read too. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
No, we're just under 3.
Probably had a lot more housing starts back then though too. You know what I mean? Like my neighborhood was built in the late 90s, you know what I mean? Mid 90s, whatever it was. I think there was a lot of construction going on at that time in town as well,
Yeah,
you know.
I'm just, I know it's like it was a high point, and
Mhm.
then we still have houses being built, so I feel like the high one would be closer to that 3,000, but, it also talks a lot about the state dropping, so there's that whole piece, and births in families dropping.
Right.
3 or 4 kids to 1 or 2, so I guess that is what it accounts for.
Tracy, can you explain to me again the live birth counts versus live birth rates?
Yeah, the live birth counts are the actual number of births, and we take those by residence of the mother. So, so regardless where mom has her baby, if she lives in Medfield, that birth count is, counted in the town of Medfield.
Okay.
The birth rate is the number of births per 1,000 women, and based on specific age groups. So they provide, it's typically provided only by county level, and only for age groups 10 to 14 and over through 45 plus years. So they break it out by that. So they're really not that helpful in terms of comparing birth rates to kindergarten, which is really, why we use this. We really want to use the counts to give us that pool of student or potential kindergarten students.
The other thing that I'm doing is if you take slide 8, which is technically page 9, I just took a picture on my phone for ease, and then I went to slide 23. The birth year of 07, 08 would be your current 10th graders. So if you go down that list and then go earlier in age, you can kind of follow the ratio of where the kids are in terms of their birth year in comparison. What numbers is that translating in the school now? So you can see the big spike population years when you go up and correspond, like the 207 corresponds with that higher birth rate. So it's just an interesting analysis to do it this way to see if there's a consistent ratio.
Any other questions? Good? I think we all have a copy of this too, right? It's in the packet, so. Tracy, that was super helpful. If we have any more questions, we'll reach out to you.
Oh, yes, please do. Yeah.
Thank you for
I
joining us.
know it's a lot of information all at once, so.
Can I ask one more question? Is there any way with that live birth count to run it in an academic calendar year versus a school year? Because if you use September 1 as the age cutoff, because right now the live birth count looks at a year, but a year spans 2 academic years. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah, the data isn't necessarily available by month.
Okay, just curious.
So it's provided through the Department of Health by year, not by month. So I'm not sure how I would be able to do that.
Okay.
But, and yeah, and so we can see too, because how you see that higher kindergarten to first grade ratio too. Some of that is probably kids entering at 6 rather than 5. So.
Should we confirm that Michelle doesn't have any questions? I know she's muted, but.
Michelle, do you have any questions? Thanks, Tracy.
No, I'm okay right now, thank you.
Great. Like I said, I'll reach out if we have any more questions, but I really appreciate your time tonight. Thank you for the work and the data.
Okay, well, thank you so much. It's my pleasure.
All right, have a good one.
All right, have a good night.
Bye. Actually, I didn't need to show this guy. Should have probably checked to see if there were any questions before I got off. There are none. Okay. I hate Max. Alright, cool. If anyone is going through that report and wants to, I'm happy to share her email address. I think some of us, it's actually on the report too. So, maybe just CC everybody. If you have a question, shoot it to her and go from there. I think generally speaking, if I look at Dale Street population, so she broke it down into the 4 or 5 group. And, best case scenario, we have a school in 27, 28-ish time frame to start. That high number of 504, I think is the number I read. But the average for the next 10 years is much less than that. I think we seem to be cognizant of that when looking at this. And the NESDEC enrollment projections are very similar to this.
Really?
Yeah, it was almost within 5-10 overall. Jeff, is that about right?
That's correct, yeah.
Yeah. So, the good news is the NESDEC that we have and the town pays for seem to be, if they were vastly different, like I said last time, then oh my goodness, now what? All right, so it's more data that we have, which is good. Alright, so that was good. I'm gonna skip real quick to the end and just get the past meeting minutes out. Did everyone take a look at that, April 3rd meeting packet? I had one comment, and it was just on the future think update, and I'll just talk to the camera because I know whoever's recording it. It said something, he feels the data we got back for the enrollment for the next 10 years is the same numbers that we already have through Wellesley, and that Wellesley should have probably been NESDEC. It's just a typo, it looked like. That was my one comment on the meeting minutes. Anyone else, comments? Motion to approve the meeting minutes? Michelle, I'll start with you again.
Michelle Kirkby, yes.
Peter Michelson, yes.
I think we need a motion first.
Oh.
Yeah, I'll make a
Yeah.
motion that we approve the meeting minutes. Are you doing March 6th first?
I have April 3rd. I didn't have March. Oh, I did April 3rd. Let's do April 3rd.
I'm sorry, April, I opened it wrong. April 3rd,
Second.
Mike Webb, oh, okay, Michelle?
Michelle Kirkby, yes.
Go
Peter
ahead.
Michelson, yes.
Mike Webber, yes.
Meredith Chamberlain, yes.
Tony Papantonis, yes.
Warner, yes.
Bob Meany, yes.
John Messina, yes.
Carolyn Casey, yes.
Teresa James abstain.
Leo Brown, yes.
Okay, great. Why do I have a note on here that says vote for March 6th? Did we vote on that already? Did we,
I-
we did that last time?
Is it that we didn't have enough people at first? That's what I'm saying, that's what I
Yeah, no, I'm
looked
looking
at
at
it
my notes here. Were they in the meeting packet, the March 6th?
But
No, I
they're
didn't
not
see them.
there, cause it's April 3rd, so you
So I didn't read them again. You wanna just, I'll make a note, I'll double check to see if we did it.
Yeah,
and
they
if not,
should
we'll do it next meeting.
include them in,
Okay.
just so we know what we're looking at,
They were in the packet from the previous meeting, so
for the previous,
they've
yeah.
already been distributed.
So we could open that now, if we just all
I think we
look
I
back.
was in the car, I think we voted
think
on
we
it,
voted
because I
on
did
that.
it from the car. For sure.
Yeah, because it says here, from the last meeting, it said we voted on meeting minutes March 6th.
Oh, all right, so that just
Yeah.
needs to be posted, I don't know if it's posted,
I don't know if it's posted either.
okay.
All right, so the communications subcommittee, you guys have been busy. Let's talk about the letter and public forums.
Yes, so I sent out a copy, Peter had written that, great letter for us, and the communications subcommittee did some editing. So I, we wanted to get your thought on where it is now. The banner's at the top, it does not have a QR code on it, cause as Michelle pointed out, when I did the Facebook, I pulled it in the Facebook, the QR code didn't work, and I need to write that down and ask Brittany about that, so, banner should have that. So what we did, just quickly is we, took everything that Peter did, and then we thought about, we need to write it so that someone who has not paid any attention at all, it would make sense to, like, has not seen the meeting, hasn't looked at any documentation. So we just started out and just tried to start from where we are and what we're trying to do and explain a few terms. And one concern when we were looking at the numbers that Steve Callahan had done is he was using the number 93 million for a new school, which is fine, but for people who didn't watch his presentation, we were worried that people might think we've already designed the school because we have this exact number for it. And all he was saying was, you know, it's probably in this range, and he took a number, and I didn't want anyone to think that we have actually, you know, have a building we're looking at.
Costed something out,
Yeah, so we went with more of a range, we said it will probably be between 90 to 100 million, and we can change that if anybody wants me to go 85 to 100.
I mean,
You know, again, we just wanted everyone to understand the public's guess.
you also said something about, here it is, very high level estimate. I mean, we're talking like a wag. This is
Yeah.
a wild guess.
Exactly, but we did take his 93 exact, because that's where he had the data for the tax.
Yeah.
So that's why that looks like a little bit different there. And then we just finished, trying to give a little your engagement, how important it is, and then this point of that we're gonna do some forums. So, in a second, I'll show you what we came up with for forum planning, but these were the 4 dates at the moment, and nothing's in stone, we can change them. But we had talked about the evening one at Dale Street, 7 PM on Wednesday, a Sunday one at Dale Street, 3 PM. And then, I booked the townhouse for 11 AM on the 29th, and Bob booked the senior center for 10:30 on the 31st. So those were the 4 dates, and of course, everybody says welcome, could come, the more the merrier, but I know that some of us aren't working, some are, so those ones during the day are hard. Then I listed everyone's names. I hope, can you check the spelling and make sure I didn't miss anything up there? And the thought was, see what you guys think, if, we do any edits, and then we could print these out tomorrow or Friday and bring them to town meeting and pass them out as a little something from us to the community. So that's looking for.
So I think it's excellent. I thought you made it a lot better, so that's really good. I have 2 teeny comments. I'm not sure that Jeff Morrison, Steve Brenham, and Christine, you may have run this by them, are you?
I did not.
I don't think their names should be on here. This is, my hope is that this letter goes out and nobody reacts strongly to it. That would be, oh my God, that much money. But some people might. And I don't think town employees should be in the crosshairs on this. So my own thinking, and everybody else's may disagree, is that those 3 names should not be on here. So that's not a content thing at all, that's just I don't know what you call it, but.
I agree.
Yeah, just put Michael's cell phone number on there.
Great.
Yes, Mike Weber, however.
And my work
Wow.
email address.
So that's not, I don't know, I'm not trying to pick nits, but I just feel like.
That's why we're here, it's fine.
Yeah,
I
I just think
was
they
saying,
should be.
we're voting we'll go with the letter, like, just not voting, like, it shouldn't,
It's
like.
fine. I don't think any of them are gonna take offense to not being listed.
No offense to you.
My only piece was that the bylaw lists them as members, non-voting members, but the bylaw lists them as members, but I'm totally fine if that's what people wanna do,
I think that's fair to keep them out of the it is from us,
okay?
you know what I mean?
It's good feedback.
It's my gut, if everybody else disagrees and wants their names not, assuming they're okay.
I'm looking for thumbs up,
I don't have a strong opinion, so I think it's pretty obvious they're a part of it, because they have to vote on doing the statement of interest, like that gets, we give our
Okay.
opinion, but they vote, so I feel like
all right, here we
it's
go.
fine.
Just to that list, I don't know how Leo and Michelle feel, but, like my position is from a planning board representation,
Yes.
so I didn't know if you wanted to.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if I should sort of say if you were from a group in town, what,
And I only say that because there may be something that happens in the future that another planning board rep comes
Yeah.
to the table,
Right,
another
let me
school committee
delete
person comes to the
those.
table.
Leah, what do you think, want me to put school committee?
We did vote on the letter,
Yeah.
so I think it'd probably be a good idea. Michelle, what did,
It's very minor, but.
I don't think that's where you're from. I think adding what group you represent right now might add an unnecessary layer of complexity when we want people to be focusing on the message of the letter. I agree with taking off, Christine and Jeff and the ex officio people, but I think adding all of the groups that everyone's from, I don't know, it just,
It's too much.
yeah, it might be too.
it feels unnecessary to me.
I think people know who we represent and why we're on.
Yeah,
And it's clear on the website.
Just keep this.
yeah.
Sure.
All
So, one other one, so the second to last paragraph, which is great, your engagement as we continue to evaluate options is critical. We're planning to conduct a series of forums in the hope of receiving feedback and questions related to cost. I would just change it, cost and other matters such as location of the new school, and then delete the next sentence, unless you intend the first forums to be solely about the location and not about cost. But given that the whole letter, most of the letter was about cost, I think that's what, I'm expecting that's at least one of the issues that people are gonna wanna talk about.
So that is an interesting point, because in us planning it, we did go with the focus is on location for the first set of forums. Following the last discussion we had that we were gonna try to accomplish location. And so I can show you sort of the planning.
Yeah, why don't we do that?
I think some people will talk about cost, and that's fine at the forums, but we sort of made a slideshow focused on location as the.
I think what you have with costs is all you're gonna get at this point. You know, I mean, it's just, hey, it's a swag, right? It's just
Yeah.
X number of feet, square feet times.
Yeah, I appreciate the feedback, but how it's written is kind of how I see the first couple forums, these first forums, just because we can decide location now. We have no idea what costs are.
That's right. We
You
have
know what I mean?
Depends on when we get approved and what
100
we
million,
decide to do.
120
And what we
million.
build.
Yeah, and maybe it's like, you know, we get some Cracker Jack that says you can reuse this and that, and it's 75 million, and we're like, this is amazing, like, who knows? Like, I don't see it happening, but, you know.
We
like,
glass half full.
Yeah, I mean, there's, yeah, I went through the PDP again, just looking for something else, and the school's in tough shape. So, reusing much of it will be hard to do, but that said, I think it's written well.
I thought it was great, thank you very much.
Well, you started it, so thank you for doing the work to take the initiative and
Yeah, you did, thank you.
get us a draft. Okay, so,
I only have one little wordsmith
Yep.
at the very last sentence though, about the first
focus on first one be on determining location.
yeah, word determining makes, like, that's a decision point and it's more informing,
We're discussing.
discussing.
Yeah,
About
discussing.
discussing.
Yeah, I just,
Say
That's
a location, a future location.
Or just
a
discussing
location.
locations.
Or discussing locations with an S,
Yeah.
because there are,
exactly, yeah.
okay, no,
Sure.
exactly what we wanna do here, the focus of this one, discussing, okay.
Keep the legs in line.
So everybody's okay, and now,
Good job.
all right,
Yeah,
I'm
excellent.
on.
Send it
So
out.
will you try to, I don't even know how you would do this, so I'm asking a question. Can you get something like this on Medfield Patch?
Yes, we make it a PDF and we can send it to Hometown Weekly and the
Yeah.
Patch, and we can put it up on our Facebook page and on the town website. The first thing I wanna do is Christine and Brittany are here, and I'm not quite sure, but I need to ask them how, I print copies of, the technical part of just
Well,
going
is
over
Brittany
there.
here?
She's at the MBTA meeting.
Yeah.
She just signed on the beginning just to help us get going.
Oh, okay.
And I can ask her tomorrow, it's no problem, but
Okay.
I'll go and get them printed, and then we'll bring them.
Thank you.
You know how people have, those tables outside town meetings?
Yeah, there's always
walking in?
handouts and stuff like that.
Yeah, so I assume one of us could, or a couple of people could sit there and have the handout and just try to
I'll be there.
get as many. Did you say, 300 you thought we needed before?
Yeah, I was just basing that on the last town meeting size.
Okay.
You could probably ask, Christine or Brittany will have
Yeah.
that info too.
Yeah.
How many
Okay.
people showed up to the last town meeting?
273.
Yeah, it was like 2 town meetings ago,
Wow,
we didn't
you
have
know
enough people.
that.
We
Well,
had
I
some
read it
people.
last night. I was in Pastori's opening letter.
Oh, was it okay?
273 or something
Oh.
that showed up.
But we can also use the letters
What's
of
that?
forms, the one we don't,
Right,
2 town
any
meetings, so we had
extras, I'm
some
sure
fun.
we
we
can
can
use.
use.
Yeah, no.
I
And,
still wanna run out at
No,
town
well,
meetings,
we-
maybe I'll do a
I
little
wonder
more.
if other people
cause I think
show up.
the MBTA issue may attract a
Couldn't
couple
have a
more
town
folks than
meeting.
you might
Not
normally
enough people
see.
showed up.
Yeah.
They
The other
don't
thing
have
is
a
I
quorum.
have leftover magnets from Medfield Day, you want me just to save them, or
'em out.
bring
Get 'em
those
out.
for town meeting?
Yeah.
Sorry, 318.
318 was the number?
Yeah, last year.
Either that or the forms.
Well, if we have extra, we can just bring them to the first
Yeah.
forum,
the
because
forum,
people
right.
can give extras, they'll have friends that couldn't go, and they'll be like, here, I'll give you
Yeah.
this, it tells you when the other options
It's
are.
actually a pretty good idea, because those are the people who are really interested,
Right.
is the people who are going to form, so.
Okay, so the second thing is sort of, the forms themselves and how to work that. And I have a little slideshow, and I realized, I think
Are you on Zoom?
I was, and then I closed out, so I,
Why don't
hold
you
on, I'll
Get
be
back
right
on,
back
and I'll promote you to,
because otherwise I can't show you.
Brad?
Okay. I'm back.
You shouldn't be on the website.
Yes, I sent, they get
Only
it?
one in the packet has like edits and notes.
Oh,
It's
I
like a
thought I made a
draft with
PDF and
comments.
sent it to
Yeah,
everyone. I sent it around.
You were in.
No, you sent, what you sent to us is
I
fine.
recognized
Okay.
There's a draft in the meeting
Sunglasses and a
packet.
hat.
That is like a Word, like
in
with
an
comments and notes.
I
and
was getting my butt
parentheses.
I didn't even know that got in the meeting packet, got in the big one?
Yeah.
6.
Okay.
Karen, you gotta, accept my,
Oh,
to be
so-
big.
sorry.
His whole
panelist.
life, they have him on a 16 to 6 trajectory.
Well, that doesn't matter, it's just our draft work, right?
No, my dad and my
Yeah,
mom,
but,
it's
yeah.
my side.
Should
Scandinavians
I-
are all like 6'4" to 6'6".
And this one we're gonna print
And he
out,
looks
but
like
should I
me.
put it somewhere? Chris, somewhere?
You're a great tennis player.
Oh,
we're gonna post it on the website.
Yeah, I'm gonna post it on the
Playing tennis
website, so
next
that's
door.
okay.
we're on Medicare.
We're at
Oh,
Medicon.
Medicare, I was going to
I
talk
play next to him at Wimbledon.
No,
on Tuesday night.
should get my high schooler to play with you guys.
Yes, yeah.
Oh.
I did not even
Yeah.
realize that
Yeah.
that was what was in the
They're both
packet,
good.
All my
sorry.
kids play
Karen, you are a
tennis.
panelist, you should,
Yeah,
or
my
co-host,
mother-in-law
you
played
should be able to
PC, so
share.
I can't
Okay,
take
um,
credit for that.
Do I,
Oh,
I don't need
She's
to
actually a
unmute,
walk-on
do I?
meeting.
No, stay muted.
Wow.
Let me just get,
Me, no, I'm gonna get back in there. I did when I was younger, I just
Thing
had
up.
to back in there. Now that my kids are.
Tennis.
share.
I need to start playing tennis, that sounds like fun. It's great.
It's fun.
All right.
Kids don't
Show.
play, it's so wonderful.
I gotta figure out how to get the Medicom reports redone. They're real bad.
Okay, so, we thought we would have a slideshow going,
How you start
just to
more
keep
think
it
about that way.
organized and focused about what we're trying to do. So it starts SBC listening sessions. We do provide an introduction, whoever's there at that particular forum, introduce yourself. And then give a little overview of what we've been working on. These are the big highlights we thought. And then a little bit of looking into 2024, that we're reapplying, and we're moving, and as well as more forward planning in the event we decide to build without MSBA support. And so we put, planning includes further townwide discussions on the site characteristics, focus of today, as well as financial planning. Town meeting articles, another analysis of cost considerations. So this is just introduction slide after everybody gets there. And anybody can be the person who's introducing at the forum, so I'm sharing with you, but I'm not saying that I'm the introducer, anyone can be an introducer. And then, we thought we'd just highlight the survey. And what we're trying to focus on, and I think that this is important for us as a group, because I've had a little bit of feedback, since the last, couple of select board meetings ago, we did an update from this group. I did an update, Bob helped me. And what a couple of people were, asking me about after the meeting, a couple of days after, was they made a connection from the no vote, meaning why would we talk about location? It should just be Dale because of the no vote. And what I've been trying to say to people is, all we know from the last proposal is that there was a no vote and it was more than the yes vote. And we've been trying to find out why people voted no. But our job is to get a yes vote with 2/3 on something. And the way to do that is to figure out why people voted no. And location is a reason, but there are people who voted no for other reasons. And we don't really have data yet to say that the most popular reason for a no was the location. It may be, we just don't have.
I don't think we'll ever get that data, right? This
Well,
point, it is
we'll
what
never
it
know.
is.
Yes,
But that's a really good measured response, because they may be correct, by the way.
that's what I said, you might be right, we just
Right.
don't have the data to support that. And so what I wanted to do with this slide, what we wanted to do is say, okay, we heard people voted no because of location, the overall cost, including size of the proposed new building. There was no planning for the reuse of Dale, that means some people know. Like, those people might have been yes, had they known what was going to happen with Dale Street. There's a lot of no because of the increased traffic in the Elm Street area, and there was some no's because of environmental concerns at the Wheelock site.
What is that? I mean, that would rebutted those environmental.
So in the
concerns.
comments, we had people talking about, they were worried about the wells.
Yeah, there was a lot of articles about the well.
The wells.
I know.
thrown out there.
And I'm not saying it was a correct reason or not correct reason to vote no, but it was mentioned.
I think the other point is we have to be careful to assume that the voters that voted at that time when we get to a vote, A, are going to be the same voters, and B, that no one has changed their mind, or C, that it's even the same. Like, yes, it's important to reflect and know, like, to your point, like, why, right? But I've also talked to people that have changed their mind, and they had a problem with the location then, but no longer do. So I just, like, I don't wanna presume that people's mindset too, at that moment, would necessarily be the same as now. Some of them will be, 100%. But like, there are also people, so it's just like, and there are people that might have voted yes, and now their kids are older, and they're like, I don't know if I care as much anymore, like none of my kids, you know what I'm saying? So,
Absolutely, that's what I'm trying to say, that our job is to figure out how we get 2/3. That's our
Exactly.
job.
exactly.
And the more data we get, from the community, the better we can be at that. But people may be the same, may have changed, who knows which way. These reasons for some may have disappeared, and for some it's, oh, I didn't think about this before, but now I'm thinking about this reason. So I think we should present it as, these are things that we know at the moment, but we're here to hear what your thoughts are, and we're gathering information.
So, if these 5 things were the main, results, and those are like the, I think we did like a word graph or whatever, and maybe we'll just say the survey results noted the following main reasons, because like I said, like, I just, whether people voted no because of the perceived environmental issues in Wheelock, I'm sure that was hammered out in 1,000 different ways. But, because the same issues exist at Dale, the aquifer zone and all that good stuff we went through 1,000 times. But if that's what the survey said, just leave it alone.
Well, do you want me to put perceived?
No, just like that, it's fine.
Okay.
Just the results, just to highlight,
Yeah.
this is what the survey told us, that's what we're trying to present.
That's not, we're not saying it's right or wrong,
That's right.
that's what we learned.
Right, we don't, exactly.
All right, so then, this is just a summary of the cost one, it's pretty much taken right off of the letter.
Mm-hmm.
Just to say we gave this out, just summarizes it, and so we can just share that. And then the focus of the form, site selection, and so these are some bullets we put down. Site selection was noticed as a criteria of increased importance on the SBC survey. We'll start with a review of options from the prior process. We'll talk about how we looked at what the last committee did and looked at the locations. And then we're gonna tell you some pros and cons we gathered from our survey on the sites. And then we're gonna ask the people there to engage in a discussion of what they're thinking about the sites or tell us their questions. And then these were the 3 site options. that we thought this committee has come to, I want to be sure this is right, which was we can do an addition renovation to the existing Dale, we can build new at Dale, or we can do new at Wheelock.
How about four, too?
Go ahead, yeah.
Do nothing at all, like, that's the other thing, repair as is, that is an option.
Heavy reno of existing.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, or other site, maybe someone's got an idea for something that we haven't thought of, like whatever, like
Yeah.
let's just leave it alone.
I think there should be like a number 4, like.
Other,
We had,
Other.
other.
we had that at the end, but.
Yeah, we have it later for people to say if they have a site we haven't thought of.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Well, that idea of just renovating and adding nothing, should that,
I'm not,
I don't think that's.
the code compliance, all this stuff.
right?
Once you start touching more than 50% of the building, you're gonna have to bring that whole thing into code, it's not even, we're talking new windows,
right?
get rid of
Is that what
asbestos.
number 1 is?
Yeah,
It's
I
kinda
mean, number
number
1 is
one,
basically the
But it
best.
has addition in it.
That's okay.
Well,
So
slash
add-
renovation, right?
Okay,
I think it's fine. If anything, I'd say 4 other, but that's fine.
all right, well, let me show you the rest of it,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
can
yeah.
come back and add it. So,
Yeah, well.
The reality is,
Now, we think there are 3 site options, like, potential options to consider or something like that. Like, I'd maybe just change that, because,
want me to put 4, are there others with a question or something?
or
or just say,
other
site
question mark.
options for consideration.
Suggestion.
Yeah, site suggestions, like,
Potential.
there could be something that comes out of the woodwork.
Okay, wait, let's finish and then we'll go back and word and see what you think. Okay. All right, so now there's a slide for each one of those sites and some benefits and challenges that have been brought forward either at Medfield Day or on our survey or our discussions.
These
So-
are, these also largely came from the,
PDP,
Yeah,
original one,
that's-
yeah.
And
that's the pictures.
I want to be clear, and anyone who's presenting at the forums needs to be clear that these pictures are just there for a picture, but we haven't like chosen it and
Yeah.
said, you know, this is what we're doing. I don't want anyone to get confused that we've designed a building. So for Dale Edition, the benefits reuse existing structure, known traffic situation, and the infrastructure is already there.
I would say, just to paraphrase on the infrastructure, like, some of the infrastructure, you know what I mean, like,
You need to tell me how, I didn't know. It was written.
yeah, because-
but-
I would put it, some infrastructure may be reusable. I'd vague it up like.
yeah, as high level as possible, because there may be some that we,
Can't.
It's, I mean, going through the place, I just.
just
Steve
look at like the
Benham
stair,
kinda
like the
gave me a
stair
tour.
levels, like the stair treads aren't up to code as far as how high they are, so those need to get redone, like there's like a,
Oh, I thought of infrastructure as
Yeah.
water, electricity,
That's what she
pipes.
said.
Ah, that's what, I'm sorry,
So
that's
we
what I
say
took
utility
infrastructure to mean. Am I using that word wrong?
no, that's fine.
a good point, because we got 2 different views on
So I'd say site.
And we're gonna have a lot more
Site-
down the
Site
road.
what? Site
Site
infrastructure, okay.
Perfect, yeah.
Or site utilities.
Yeah, no, inside there's.
Infrastructure, because it's also roads, I mean, it's
Yeah, yeah.
sidewalks.
Okay, so that's better
That's
like
perfect.
that?
Yep, perfect.
And then challenges were disruption from phased construction may lead to finding swing space for students or staff. Parts of the old building may not meet current educational standards, may need to relocate the existing field.
Yeah.
And then option 2, a new building at Dale site, benefits, a better educational layout than straight renovation option. All areas can meet current educational standards and no swing space needed. Challenges, probable losses in field space and reuse or tear down of existing building.
Do we, I guess my question is on number 1, do we know that to be a fact? For a new building, it's better educational layout than straight? I mean, do we
Well, not
know that?
restricted, I guess you might say.
I'm sorry, I'm
I
not
think
following your
it's-
question, Tony.
I would say, I would argue that that's factual.
It is?
So you're
That's a
saying
question.
we don't, we
Is that-
can't
I don't know
say
if
for a
it's a fact.
certain.
I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, if we did a straight up renovation, would it not be the
Well,
same?
renovation addition,
Yeah, would it not be the same educational?
Yeah, I would think it's,
I think you can
guess it
increase the
depends.
size of the current classrooms.
Yeah, you can't change,
You'd have very,
I mean, I guess you could, right?
There's also.
Anything's possible.
Oh, believe me,
But-
as a contractor, I'd
Yeah.
much rather build new. I get it, but I don't know if I could state that as a fact.
I-
It's better educational layout than straight renovation.
I mean, I can say from a safety standpoint, to have your main entrance with the least monitored area of the CAF right there, just for school safety and things that we get trained in, it's really awful for kids that age. Cause that is your least supervised space.
Better educational.
And there's really, like, to get out of there, you're either coming, like, if you think about, like, it's just not a good setup, and there's 4 classrooms off of it.
I was just going to everything we've seen about like pods and special areas and
Yeah.
special educate, all kind of co-located within like the
They're
same
awful.
educational blocks, like you're not gonna have that in a 2-story tower.
you're not gonna have that in the old part. And you can build new onto Dale. So say it was an ad reno, right? You could put some new spaces on, but the old part structurally, my understanding is, and I guess you can get around it, but it's all load bearing and those rooms aren't gonna make
Yeah,
the minimum
the
standard.
term all, I think the term all summarizes what you're saying, I think. If you renovate, you're not gonna get all spaces optimal, right, or optimized.
Well, you could wordsmith the first one instead of
Right.
saying better
Yeah.
educational layout. It could be, more flexibility for,
Yeah, more
current
flexibility.
educational.
And like current
More
educational
flexibility.
needs,
Yeah,
current
like some-
educational curriculum
I
enhancements.
just think as an educator for 23 years, like, to have 4 classrooms off a CAF.
Yeah, right, but if
is
we
pretty
did it,
much the worst educational layout you could possibly have.
so I don't
Well, it's a
disagree.
high school.
But
I know, but
But
I'm
an
just
ad,
saying.
but an ad reno, you
In
don't
an
have
ad
to.
renter, you
in an
could
ad reno.
change
Well,
that,
I'm
you could
a
change
success
that in
story
an ad
from it,
reno.
so
It's
it
not,
was okay
you
for
can't
me.
compare this
Right.
to the
Forget
renovation.
the horn training
option.
practice outside the.
Is our statement, is
That's
we
better.
can't compare it to the renovation option.
That's right.
We have to state what its benefit is as itself.
I think how it's written there
Like
makes
that,
more sense to me.
flexibility. Take out than straight renovation option.
Yeah, that's fine.
Oh, that's a good way to do it.
More
Yeah.
flexibility
There we
to
Yeah,
educational.
that's better.
The other thing with a new building, just as an FYI, is depending on where that goes, there may be some swing space still needed if you tear down that back wing, depending on how it lays out with Memorial, right?
Oh, okay.
Um,
So say probably no swings?
yes, something like just a little bit more vagueness, because there was,
And before you type too far, let me bring up this, is, you're really gonna look at me weird now. There are gonna be some folks who might say, you need room for the swings? So, you know what I'm saying? I just,
Yeah, you're
people
trying
gonna
to
take it
say,
literally.
you could put in parentheses
Flexible.
temporary classrooms or something
I
like
think that might
Yeah.
be,
Flexible space?
well, it's places to put folks while the building's being worked on, right?
Yeah.
Is what we're talking about.
Mostly temporary.
I'm just
classrooms.
thinking,
That's fine.
some folks are gonna know it's an elementary school and say, what do you mean, you're worried about the swings?
Yeah.
You know, it's gonna happen, I figure just take away any little thing that
Should we say
we can get
alternate?
hit with. I just
Okay.
thought, I thought about that afterwards,
Makes
it's like,
sense at the
Um,
commentary, but that's how I was the last time.
And option 3, the new building, we elect the benefits fully meets educational, programming. Maybe that.
Do we wanna
word
say
really is
re-elect, or do we
wrong.
wanna say other site?
Yeah,
Well, we don't have another site, do we?
well, how about,
But we haven't made the decision yet, right, so this
That's
is
true.
the conversation, right, we just said.
the other site, I had a question, and I don't know who I was talking to, but I don't know why it wasn't evaluated, was, the field at Metacomet.
We did talk about it, so the field at Comet
It was like a
is,
190.
recreational, for the town, that's how they bought it, and it's one of those things where you have to go, you have to get 2/3 in town, then you go to the state legislature and you ask to rezone it. Not that it's not doable, but it's a little bit of a process there.
I also think with Curve Street as one of.
No, I'm not saying, I'm just throwing out
Talk about roads and
hypotheticals,
traffic,
right?
and then you have the high school and the high school kids that way, and then the middle school. Could
I'm
be-
just saying it's a big space.
How is
Why don't we
this
just say
first-
slash other, like
Be
whatever.
exactly.
Well, I mean, I think this is a really important question, because when we were all here, we talked about Wheelock Dale, and then across from the hospital said it's because there's no infrastructure, that's just too expensive. So it seemed like we were sort of looking at these two sides.
So I don't disagree, I think there's really still only two options, I'm just saying, that's my personal opinion. I just don't wanna rebut anybody, cause the last time what happened was kinda done in a vacuum, and that's the criticism we got big time.
Right, so the
You know what I
difference
mean?
is this is what we saying at the moment, and then we're asking the community, if they have a third one, tell us.
If we ask in the end, then fine.
So-
We have that, we still have that sort of.
It's in the PDP, I actually saw
Yes,
it
it's
today.
in there about all the sites, and there was pros and cons for all the existing sites.
And that's
of
where
the
this
town
came from.
property. Yeah, so I mean, we couldn't link to that or include that as for more information. It was a very thorough audit of all the land that we own in the town that could sustain a building of that size.
Correct.
Metacomet was not in there though.
It was not, because I asked that very question.
Option 2 and 3 are both new builds. The benefits are the same, it's really, except that Wheelock has the co-location of grades 2 through 5 on the same campus, right? Go back to option 2. Was
So
there
we want
another
me-
different?
And then I will copy this one, and I will put it here.
It's a good catch.
Yeah. And the same thing for the, go up one again,
For the no swing space?
go up to option 2.
Well, there is really no swing space needed if you.
No,
go
correct,
that
go to
road.
option 2. All areas can meet current educational standards, that would probably be the same, just copy that, right? That's it, perfect.
So, I'm sorry, but I just need to go back to the other conversation, I think it's super important. The way we're sort of setting up the forums is, this is kind of where we are. The first part of the forum is where we are. Second part is, now tell us what you think about where we are and tell us anything we're missing. But so if someone here has a third place, I would definitely include it.
Well, it may not be the one, because like this, like, right, we put the other on the next slide as like a catch-all.
Yeah.
But we may just want to include a slide with a giant question mark instead of a picture like
I
other
think-
sites.
Where else?
And, open for,
I think 3/4 of the town thinks that, why haven't we decided Dale already, and why aren't we building a school? So, we're trying to do our due diligence, so I think how you've got it presented is perfect. If there's another option, we'll give them that opportunity towards the end, it's awesome.
Alright, so then here comes the exercise. There are 4 poster boards around the room. One's Dale Edition of Innovation, so the first 3 are our 3 we've mentioned. Other ideas, considerations for sites would be in the 4th poster board. The exercise, next 10-minute, use post-it notes to list out your most important opportunities for each site, and red posters for important challenges for each site. Use the yellow posters for other considerations, a site we haven't considered, something else of importance that is not site-specific that we haven't discussed.
Sure.
So we're gathering the feedback from the people who come.
I like this.
That's great educational work. It's awesome.
And then the conclusion, thanking everybody, a little bit about our Facebook page, sign up, that kind of thing. The next steps, we've updated the enrollment so people can read the report. Diligence on Dale renovation options, other specific feasibility study questions. These are things that we're moving forward. Discussion, community feedback, and moving ahead without MSBA funding. And then we have an appendix in case we need it, and then we just have the survey results in case no one's seen it and we need to look at it, someone asks a question, it's there, because we mentioned the survey.
I mean, I wouldn't, I just threw that in just in case, like.
I
Are
think
you
it
gonna
was
be
good
there
to
to,
throw it in.
to tell everyone what the Net Promoter Score is?
No, we're not.
So the one piece now that actually I'm reading it through again, we've been talking about doing a survey with the community to try to figure out location, a few weeks from now, right? Maybe, next steps that should say that.
Well, and would that survey be based on, I assume, the feedback we received from the forums? It's like a summarized, like,
Yes.
we heard this at the forums. If you weren't able to attend, how do we, it's like an extra validation? Is that what we were thinking that survey would be? What we're,
It still worries me, about not knowing what the plan is. Like, cause if, like, you send out a survey, everybody says, yep, do the Dale. And I'm just making stuff up for a second. It's like, we get engineering reports back, it says, no possible way you can do it at Reno, and, oh, by the way, like, you have soil issues there, so you gotta put in $20 million worth of pilings to build new, and all of a sudden, the building there is like 170. Like, all of a sudden, it's like, all right, well, maybe that changes people's minds.
right,
So, like, everyone's decision is gonna be a function of the overall plan, which includes location, cost, and other considerations. So I just worry about getting trapped of like, the survey said, Dale, you have to do it there, and you're stuck with a less great option. But that's just it's just my kind of, neurosis there, because it kinda came up a little bit last time where, like, everyone went back to, hey, there was an early survey and it said that, and, so why didn't you do that? And it's like, oh, there were
Well, I
reasons.
think the other way to look at it though is, if you have a survey and everyone seems to be focused on Dale, you don't exclude the other locations, you study them, right? So if we do it at Dale, it's gonna be 100 million, but option 2, which was not the most popular at Wheelock, maybe it's 80 million, and people say, you know what, if we can save 20 million, I'm okay with going up to Wheelock's site. You just kinda, cause I think cost is my sense, is a big issue.
Yep.
So if it's a big swing, people say, yeah, I prefer it at Dale, but you know what,
Okay, I mean, just go back
I'm
to
okay.
go back to the survey, right? We had feedback from 480 something no votes, and the two things that scored the highest were location and cost.
Sure,
But,
What I'm wondering is, do we wanna have like QR codes on the tables to just, like, 3 quick questions about the form? Do you know what I mean? Like, the format of this form works for you, I don't know what it would be, nothing complicated,
Yeah.
just because that could inform, like, the way we do it. And if you have the QR code there, I feel like people will just do it right there and be like, before you leave, there's QR codes on your table. Was this a good way for us to get feedback from you? I don't know, do you know what, I just think it could be, is there enough option times? I don't know. Do you find it challenging to get to this one? I don't know, just something to.
so I assume that at the end, like we, 10 minutes of doing the Post-its, I assume that we're gonna quickly summarize.
Well,
what
so
we
that-
see.
So that's, we should talk through that, because, like, it does leave it a little, open right now in terms of, like, if you have 200 people there, there's no possible way you can summarize everything.
Right.
If you have 200 people there, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
I will like high five.
I don't think
But
so.
my thought is
Yeah,
that, like,
would be awesome.
you would take it back and then kind of like, hey, thanks for all your, process everything, it's like, if we're doing the communication subcommittee, like, essentially you're going to transcribe most of it, here are the 10 most common themes. You're probably gonna take a picture of the boards, so that there's some sort of documentation that we're not,
Right.
excluding anything. But, like, I don't know, I would tend to be, I think it would be hard to do that well, to
Yeah,
summarize it live, but,
Typically when.
I know you guys have done it, so sorry.
We've done it I've participated in quite a few, let me put it that way. And typically we do have somebody just kind of engaging, in charge, a committee member at each board or a volunteer at each board. And you're kind of seeing what people are putting up, and then you kind of say, well, hey, look at this, I mean, you can tell from the green, red, and yellow, and say, this seems to be a common theme, this, of what's getting posted. So somebody usually does speak to what gets posted from the board. It's not an overall, but then I think we do owe it to the community to, after all the forums, to say, all of them together, then aggregated to say this.
Maybe that's part of the next steps, but I kind of like the idea of a quick summary while we're there, just high level even. Like if there's so many,
Yeah.
Right.
that's fine. Yeah, I mean, makes sense to me. And also, like, if you read a comment, you don't know what it means. What does this mean? Like, I asked whoever, you know what I mean? Like, hey, who wrote this one? Like,
what does X, Y, Z mean? Like, can you just explain that in more detail so we can,
I think
it's the same thing as getting a survey results that we had written down, at least we could, please write your responses.
So,
Because it is, if you show up for an hour, you go through the meeting, you put your post-its, it's like, all right, thank you.
yeah.
What are they gonna do with my post-it?
So when we get to this poster board time, before people start, as we're passing post, as many people who are there, everybody takes the poster board standby, and your job will be to summarize it when we, does that make sense?
Yeah. So maybe I would have, in the next steps, I would say, we need to like maybe some diligence on the forums, like some,
An aggregation of.
aggregate forum data or forum, how we did and like a summary of, maybe there's some action items that come out of that, something like that. But,
Response?
so that's one comment on the next steps, and then, the discussion, community feedback, and moving ahead without MSBA funding. I'm just a little confused on that.
At one of our meetings, we were deciding location first, then we talked about maybe later in the summer, starting to have conversations about going forward without MSBA funding,
But
and flushing that out a bit at the committee level.
yeah, I mean, so, this is again me talking, so my opinion on that is like, that should be a hard discussion now, because then we just lose another 4 months. If that's really an option on the table, like, I'm personally, like, the only thing I think that's better with without MSBA is the speed to construction, speed to finish. It's quicker without, we can do it without them quicker. Their process has so much less risk in it that doesn't get discussed very much. Like, they have a system that works, that is very, yes, it takes longer, but the risk is minimized on the town, number one. So, if we're going to like decide that before next, I think this is a very real discussion come November, December of this year. If we're talking about costs, to go alone without MSBA is probably not the best thing to do as a committee.
It keeps getting brought up though.
I know, but I think.
I know, and I'm just saying, like,
I think it's a 2/3, I think it's a no vote.
I mean, that's,
Without MSBA.
You think if,
I think so.
so we pull our SOI back,
That's
what-
my gut.
we're basically saying, no, thank you for, you name the number, Leo, $15 to $25 million, doesn't matter what the number is, it's in that range.
I'm
Right?
just saying it keeps getting brought up. I'm not saying.
it
people agree with
does, but I mean,
I personally know it's gonna be
If we
cheaper
wanna
with
do it, we need to decide it now and start hiring architects, engineers, OPMs, and we need to go to the town for more the 650, like alright, we're gonna have $1.5 million to spend in between May of '24 and May of '25, then we gotta go to them for more money next year, and then the year after that, we gotta go to them for, we'll have a special town meeting after that to get funding for a school. So, what we're doing is, it's May 1, we're wasting May, June, July, August, September, October, November, we're wasting another 7 months, if that's, if that's what this committee wants to do.
Well, I think what you're saying would need to be explained in some reason, say, just like the presentation, to be MSBA or not to be MSBA, right? And what are the impacting factors around that?
so I feel like I thought we sort of had this discussion a couple
did.
months ago.
I did too, that's why I'm confused why
And I
it's
thought
up
we
there.
decided that we're gonna wait and see what happens in November, December, and whether
Of
we
this
get
year.
the funding.
This year.
Yeah,
This year. Then, if we don't get it, then the hard
I
part
think we
becomes, what do we do in December?
Well, then we meet,
Then we meet and we decide, do we go to the town and say, we just can't keep waiting a year hoping we're gonna go ahead without and see what the blowback is on that.
I think that was the decision to be made.
But I think the decision tree from now to November, December is, we're gonna wait and find out.
And do everything we can without,
Right.
without
Yeah, that's
having
what
to
I'm saying,
redo stuff.
that's the important sub-bullet of, while moving things together in parallel while we wait.
Right.
Continue to make progress.
Yeah, we need to, there's some, like site selection, with the school committee, you guys still haven't told us exactly, I know you're leaning towards keeping the grades the same, but does that need to be formalized in a vote, or is that just like,
I believe,
No, we'll be voting on that at the end of May.
yeah.
perfect? So, like, those are the things in parallel that we can do,
So that's,
but I just don't think that last bullet point is correct, because
Yeah.
do I think that's 100% a reality come end of this year?
Do we wanna say
Maybe.
here, we decided to wait till, wait till November to find out what happens?
Why don't you
Yeah.
just-
We're waiting doesn't have to be a next
Someone's
I
step.
don't even need to.
I think we just delete the line.
I think
Yeah, delete the line, I agree, get rid of it.
Yeah,
My other question is, we have site selection discussion on for today, but to me, it makes more sense to do it in June once we've had all of these forums. Because we can spend time tonight with
Yeah, yeah.
our 11 of our opinions, but we're gonna have a much more informed discussion if we have all the poster board data aggregated, and then our discussion can be reflecting back to what the community's telling us.
And sorry, can I, piggybacking off of that, Meredith, where did we leave with the survey? Because when we were talking about it at the last meeting, I guess my understanding was that it was gonna be done in conjunction with the forums in an effort to make sure we had as much feedback from the community as possible, right? So if we don't have a large turnout at the forums, can we actually be making any decisions on site selection without having as many people as possible give us their thoughts?
So I thought, and maybe I have this wrong, I thought what we were gonna do is do the forms, gather what feedback we can, small or large, whatever, and then design a survey to put out to as many people as we can about location, and on the survey will be anything we gathered at the forums, plus anything we have ourselves gathered. So people will read on the survey, read below to find out what people have mentioned as pros and cons about the sites, and then please take the survey and let us know where you are on the site, and then we would, as a group, look at that and see if it tells us anything.
That makes sense to me. My one concern is the timing, because we're talking about like our next meetings in June, we can go over everything that happens at the forums, and the timing of them, we can't really have a meeting sooner than because we have 4 forums. Just thinking of the end of the school year's ending early this year, and all of the end of year stuff that happens to families, I'm just worried about the timing of the survey. I think your point is great, like how quickly could we turn that survey around after that meeting?
That's what I was thinking too, like, if they're done in conjunction, because I think you're gonna lose a ton of families with the
Yeah.
dates of the forums, which, again, and this is like, we won't know until they actually happen, but I worry that you're gonna end up with not families showing up there, and then if you're taking that information to guide how the survey goes, it just seems like it's not gonna be as neutral as it needs to be gathering the feedback that we want from the community.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. What do you mean, Michelle, by, we're gonna lose families? We have like 4 forums with the same exact agenda. Are we not?
Yeah, but they're all at the end of May. I think you're gonna have a really hard time getting families there at the end of May. I mean, I don't know what your calendar looks like right now, but mine's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I just don't think it's gonna end up being a top priority for people when they have so many so many families, when there's so much stuff going on at the end of the school year.
That's
Take
just,
that into
that's
consideration.
consistent to the whole school year, if you wanna know the truth. It's always busy.
I also wanna say that the survey, the way the communications subcommittee has started to talk about it, and we can work on this before our next June meeting. 4 of us can have a meeting even after 2 forums to start it. But we were thinking, the survey was gonna share some information from the forums, but it's going to be very broad to the community about what you think about the sites. So there'd be questions like, only Dale, only Wheelock, Dale first, but Wheelock if, never anything, Wheelock first, but we'll do Dale. Like, we were just envisioning a lot of choices, regardless of what we hear at the forums. We're gonna put the information in, but a broader look at the survey in terms of gathering. So if someone doesn't go to the forums, we won't get their particular feedback. Well, someone might say the same thing they would have said, but the forums aren't gonna limit the options. Am I saying that? Am I saying that?
No,
I guess I'm just confused on what information we're taking from the forums that we need for a survey and why they can't be done at the same time. I guess that's what I'm confused about.
Well, you wanna do a conjoint survey where, like, people get 10 pages of options, like.
I don't wanna do
Yeah.
10. I just,
No,
I
but
want
like,
a lot, but
but
yeah.
like what you're explaining is like, it happens all the time in research, it's be like, all right, you get two pictures, it's a $110 million building at Dale, or a, you know, or a $130 million renovation to the existing building, like, which one would you choose? This one, all right, now you get an $85 million building in Wheelock versus a $75 billion building at Dale, like, what would you choose? Okay, I think this one.
Yeah.
And then you aggregate all those against each other, and, I mean, it's
Yeah.
more complicated than
Those
like
go
our
to
budget, but
1,000
it's like,
business school classes.
but it's kind of what you're trying to get to.
I know these, I saw that before.
So, Michelle, I guess the
Statistics
piece is
that would be
that if we put the survey out, like right with the first form, and then people who come to the last one will be like, well, you've already asked people and you didn't gather my feedback, and my feedback could have been on your form.
But maybe the survey isn't inclusive of what's happening at the forum, I don't know.
Is the survey,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm coming to
Yeah.
this,
Yeah.
to this, is the survey needed right now?
I was gonna say,
That was my question, can't that wait for September?
I think we just vote on the site after our forums. But don't we have enough information?
We say vote on the site.
Why
after
can't we,
our
why
forums.
can't we
What do
as
you
a
mean?
group say, we think it should be a Dale, and like drop the discussion until we know if we get into MSBA or not?
MSBA is gonna make you go through site selection again.
100%.
Yeah.
That's why you drop it, and we already know what we wanna do. But not really, by the way. If we told them where it's gonna go, they
Yeah.
would listen to you.
But how do you get there without knowing what the actual options are?
I feel like I already do, maybe that's
it.
why.
I mean, he's been.
But I think that
he's been
we need to
involved.
take everybody else on the journey, right? Everybody else wants to go on our journey. So they wanna go on this journey of, well, let's put it on that farmland that we have up, towards Walpole, because that's a big enough plot. And there was some reason why we couldn't put it there.
Red
And then-
meat,
What's that?
is it that red meat farm over there?
Yeah.
Yeah, then there's another set of land that you can't, that's almost like landlocked, we can only have one way in, but that's also big enough too. And then we had, the hospital area, right, is the area that we still own, it's big enough to put it on there, people might come up with those ideas, even though we know we have to get infrastructure to there, but now with that construction going on, maybe infrastructure is gonna be there now. Remember, because that was one of the main reasons why we had to eliminate the hospitals, because we couldn't get infrastructure, we would have to take all the way up from the center of town to get up there, and it was cost prohibitive at the time. I don't know, like, people are gonna think out the side of the box, and then they, Jeff.
I just have a couple of questions about the survey. So if you guys do the survey right after, you have the open forums, what's the purpose of having it in June? Are we gonna sit on that for July and August and revisit it in September again, or what does that look like? And my second part is, when you do the survey, we're talking about locations. How is it gonna be communicated so that people understand that we're gathering feedback and they're not making the decision on where the school is actually going to be? Because I remember last time we did a survey with 500 people or something, it came out one way. The committee voted a different place, and that was thrown at the committee, every week. So I just think we have to be careful, right? If you wanna do a survey and gather information, that's awesome, but there's going to be a fraction of this community that's gonna think, I'm picking where the school's gonna go. And then we looked and 550 people said they want it at Dale Street, and then the board votes Wheelock, we got a problem. I think we just gotta think it through a little bit.
That's right, like, I would almost like to use these like visioning sessions, like to collect feedback, to then create like a list of, like, these are the 5 things that we can actually diligence, to then have a broader understanding of like, is this applicable or not? And then And then you can come back and say, hey, listen, like, we took your feedback, we researched all this stuff, let's play back what we learned. And then, okay, based on, like, now we know more.
So the survey would be that feedback, or would you have an in-person vision?
Do we do a survey?
That's what,
I think you collect the data from the forums and just say, this
Take
is
a look at
kind of what we did, and we do an analysis.
Why don't we collect the data and have a discussion on it and
Yeah.
say, hey,
Yeah.
look,
See
do
what
we
it
have
looks
more questions to gather more feedback? Because when I hear survey, I agree with what you said and what Bill said too. I think a visioning session would be fantastic. Like, what do you want out of the school site? Like that type of stuff, right?
that's what, I mean, that's kind of what this is, or no?
Yeah, that's what I think this vision is. Yeah, exactly. So then, why don't we just say, do we need a survey? Do we have to have, we'll probably have some more questions, and we want more feedback.
Right,
It's
and
fine.
Yeah.
one thing we talked about it, that you might do a forums, a survey, forums based on after looking at stuff and then survey. I agree 100% with Leo that people wanna go on the journey with us. And I think that Jeff makes a really good point about what happened, and we're trying to move forward here in that the community needs to feel connected to the decision, and they may not, there'll be people like, well, I didn't get my first choice, but they have to know they had input, and there could be other ways we get the input besides a survey and forums, but I think we just need to, we can look at what we got from the forums, but then we
Yep,
need to make
think on it.
sure that we're not ending it and then
That's
saying that it's over, you know, like.
So why don't we use June, look at all of our feedback from the forums, and decide what we wanna do from there?
So
Because then we'll know, do we wanna do a survey from there, is it the wrong, do we need to pause, do we need more info, how many people showed up
I
at the
guess how many
forums?
people show up, I think. is
Exactly,
gonna be,
so we'll
Right.
have data and say like, okay, I think these 4 opportunities are gonna give us feedback on like how quickly we can come to our conclusion.
So
That's very
on our
correct.
SBC next steps,
Yep.
are we really only saying, you know, the immediate SBC next steps, June, and then even bullets 3 and 4 come off?
Well, we already did the enrollment projections actually, so that's done. So
No,
it's
she
not
said
the next
3 and
step.
4.
Yeah, I know, but I
Oh.
just realized that
Done too.
2's already done. We just did it.
But we haven't really published anything.
Let's keep it on there. Look like we're active.
Okay,
We could say review updated or something, because we didn't really,
alright, so should I take off 3 and 4, is there something else?
I think,
I think maybe share, like discuss forum responses, cause I think we're really gonna look at what the forum data is showing us and what is our roadmap on site selection from there.
and then, as an aside, the last, sentence of our letter mentions a survey. I would just
It
delete
does.
that.
So I had to go back and delete that, yes.
That's a good catch, really.
Yeah.
We could still do it, it's just, we just have time.
Yeah.
No, we can also do it. It's a
Whenever.
Survey.
Well,
Well, how about, share, discuss, forum, plan, how about we like plan next steps for determining location, yes.
for site selection.
Okay, and I'm gonna take the survey off before I, yes, okay. Everybody okay with the slide?
I think it's
Um,
great.
Yeah.
It'll
Thank you,
generate
that's a
something.
ton of
I
work.
just,
That was
this is
really
all
fun.
I'm really picky, are the
Some
slides
pictures.
where we've got the graphics
Yeah.
of the schools.
Yeah.
I love pictures, but if we show groups a picture,
We have, whoever's
Does it
presenting at
say-
that forum needs to say, I know there's a picture
Right.
here, we
Just
haven't designed
concept,
anything, we
concept.
just put a picture there to make it look pretty.
Right.
So
Just
right,
say where it
right,
came
right
from.
underneath there in that
Kids.
tagline, we're gonna say
Yeah.
You know,
rep-
pictures of kids instead of buildings.
representation.
yeah, cause
I'm sorry, what?
I'm not comfy with,
Kids instead of buildings.
yeah, I'm not comfy with the buildings,
We're
Ah.
just,
so,
Do we have any of those?
We have lots of them.
I have pictures of my own kids.
and I,
Perfect. When they were young?
We got from
They're already beautiful.
Can you,
website,
can you send me 3?
Yeah.
Or, yeah, just send me 3 and then I'll throw them in.
Sure.
Okay.
just don't wanna hear 2 years from now, well, that's not what you showed me at the forum in May of twenty
I
twenty-four.
know, that's the.
I
No,
overthink
you're
things
right,
too much.
no.
I overthink things too
But
much,
no,
but
what
On
can't
the
go wrong will,
SBC
no,
next
you're right.
steps, should we publish, the date of the school committee making the, grade vote?
Oh, no, I think that's for school committee.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna impact the forum all that much.
Can we figure out who's going to what forum?
Yeah, that would be the next thing, just to sort of,
So we have
people look at their schedules and
Can you just say,
I made it
selections, potential site options.
So, the sun, the week, there's
And
only
then
one
you don't
during
need
the
to say
week,
there are three.
during the day.
Can you, so what are the
I'm gonna
dates?
stop sharing.
May 15th, 7 p.m., which is a Wednesday.
you want,
So, May 15th, I can get there late, but I can't get there till
What time's it?
7 p.m.
Yeah, I could.
I could do that one, Carolyn, May 15th,
Yeah,
7 p.m.
I'm the same way, I'd be a little late.
Hold on, let me just, wait.
I have a meeting
May
from 5:30
fifteenth,
to
okay,
7.
so, I'm sorry, Peter can come, who else for May 15th? Well, you and I are at all,
Yeah,
that
you
might be Bill, great. Anybody else, May 15th?
Um,
15th?
So
Okay.
my original response was absolutely. I'm
I have a meeting that ends at 7, so I'd be late.
I can get there at 8,
I can do the 15th.
so at least I'm there at
We will have been drawn and quartered by then.
Okay, so that's,
Can come in with the 8.
and then there's Bob and,
Come pick
Bob
up the
and I are
pieces.
on.
So-
Okay, it's for the 31st?
no 19th is the next
The
one.
19th.
I'm sorry, 19th.
I can be there at that one. I believe.
That's a Sunday, okay,
Yep.
Mike?
I have a wedding.
I'm out of town, but I
Sounds good.
think I'll be back by then. Are we set on 3? Would we ever do 4? I'm just worried about all the town sports that are on Sundays, later on Sundays, like
We had
nobody
4, and
has.
then people had to be a little late, cause you get near dinner time, so we went for the 3.
I just think the number of lacrosse is on Sundays, that's a huge sport in this town. All the club sports, all the kids that play club soccer, I think you're gonna lose a huge amount. The parents that work full-time,
Yeah, I don't know, but
Wanna
I'd
do it
be
at
on
5?
4 o'clock though.
How about 5?
I just think later's
Cut
gonna be
yourself
better.
an hour.
3, you're just gonna miss, I think, a lot of people.
I could do later on Sunday too, if that makes it easier.
Cause
I don't wanna
dinner's
make-
usually not till like 6, I think we'll be out of there within 2 hours of the move, right?
We're thinking actually only an hour. We
Yeah,
figure
so
it's
I mean,
a
like
15,
4 to
20 minute
5.
introduction,
You wanna do 4?
10-minute go around, and
I
it's
think we'll just get more people.
We'll do 4 o'clock.
So you'll have to change the letter
Tell me
as
to
well.
change it in the letter, yes. I just told Teresa. Okay, so the 19th is now 4 o'clock. Jeff, do you think it matters to Dale Street, cause it's a Sunday for you?
We'll have some of that,
Okay,
yeah, it'll be fine.
all right, and then there's the, 29th at Townhouse.
I was gonna say, on the 19th, I can do this at 4 p.m.
You can't
If
do
you
4,
want some,
okay.
but if you don't, you feel like you've got enough people, that's fine.
Which day was the next one, sorry?
29th is a Wednesday at 11 o'clock in the
I
morning.
can do that. I can do both early dates.
The so senior center is up there.
If you need me there, I can definitely do that.
On the 29th?
I can be late.
Anything to get out of one of my PD meetings.
Anybody else for either of the mornings, the 31st or the 29th?
What
You're already counting me,
what
right?
time?
Yes, I got you and I and everyone.
What time on the 31st?
The 31st is 10:30.
I can do that.
I could do that too.
And that'll probably be a shorter one, because we got a little bit of a window on that one. It's like
Yeah.
usually 10:30 to 11, they have coffee. That'll be
We
it.
can have coffee while we're doing it. It's perfect.
Yeah. No, that's the window, and then I got other things to do.
I can do it, what time did you say the 29th was?
11 o'clock.
I can do that one.
I know exactly where that was going.
Okay.
Okay.
And then this is.
Caroline, if you wrote down those names, do you mind just sending an email to all?
Yeah, I'll just put it up on a, yeah.
That'd be
on a
awesome.
thing, yep. And then, I mean, when the communications subcommittee was meeting, when we were picking days, Bob and I knew we could do all 4. So, you know, if something comes up, please don't, you know, feel like you have to come. So, but I'll put it up from what we have now and we'll go from there.
I'll be there on Sunday, for sure, on Wednesday late.
Okay.
There's an added attraction on the 19th, if I come to that one, I'll still be in my kilt. Cause I'll just
Bring
have
the
come from the parade,
bagpipes
so.
and you can just play for us. That would be our
If
music in
the
the
forum
background.
doesn't work, we just,
All right, then,
We'll get people there, Bob.
in the, are we all set with that for now?
I think so.
Can I move on?
Thank you very much, that's a ton of work.
Carolyn, do you have, since you're still presenting, or still a presenter, do you have the invoice from Future Think in the meeting packet on your computer right there? That you can share, cause I'd like to vote on that approval. Yeah, the only invoice says for half, it was their March invoice. So I'm sure we'll see another one next one.
it's the very last item that's late,
Yeah.
page 34.
There it is. Okay, hold on, I will share my screen again. Where did my screen go? There we go. That one? Hold on. This one? I did have it open. There it is.
Great. Everybody get a
Sorry.
chance to look at this?
Mm-hmm.
So this is Future Think rather. This is their, what was the date on that? 3/31 invoice for half of their fee. Any questions or issues with this? Any motions to approve the $8,000 invoice?
Move to approve the invoice dated 3/31/24 for Future Think in the amount of $8,000.
Second.
I'll give it to Tony. Alright, we'll, Michelle, if you don't mind going first on that vote?
Sure, Michelle Kirkby, yes.
Peter Michelson, yes.
Mike Weber, yes.
Meredith Chamberlain, yes.
Tony Pepitone, yes.
Bill Warner, yes.
Bob Meany, yes.
John Messina, yes.
Carolyn Casey, yes.
Teresa James, yes.
Leo Brown, yes.
Great. And that is our agenda because we are going to talk about, we talked about site selection a little bit, but it's really gonna be moved. Any comments, questions?
Yeah, I was just gonna throw out a couple of suggestions, and this is totally just to avoid any kind of minefields that might be out there when people looking at the letter and also on the slide deck. I think it's just really, when you're talking about the MSBA money and the cost difference with MSBA, just instead of using the words, like on the 3rd paragraph, instead of saying will be, use the words could be.
Are you in the letter, Chris? Just
Yeah,
on
in the
right
letter,
place.
sorry.
Thank you.
It's the 3rd
Third
paragraph.
Yep, 1, 2, 3.
Where you say the 983 per year. It's just, I think it's safer if we just say could be instead of will be.
Would be
Will-
approximately.
I have will be approximately 983. Is that all right?
Yeah, we say could be approximately.
Well,
Thank
hold on, if we're making the first assumption at 93 million, and it says assumption, doesn't that clarify that we're pretty vague on it?
I just think that when,
I'm not trying to, I'm not a
yeah, I
wordsmith.
just think you're better to be overly cautious, I think, with how you describe MSBA money and its impact. And I think the other thing I was gonna mention is on the last paragraph, when you talk about we could expect 20 to 25 million I think I had brought this up before, and updated it, which was good, was just basically making sure you say it's based on eligible expenses. Because I just know that this has blown up in other districts.
So that's a percentage base. I don't disagree with your general statement, but the number of 2025 is still a low percentage of the overall cost, right? Like if you look at, that 2025 would still be upwards of 38% of eligible expenses on a $100 million school, right? That number comes down. So I'm just not trying, so I think it's like a scale anyways.
Yeah, I mean,
You're asking to make it more vague?
What I worry about is people will look at that and say, okay, that's what we could be sort of guaranteed to get.
Right.
And MSBA always comes out and says it's a non-entitlement grant, you're not guaranteed to get a certain amount.
Correct.
So how you word it, I don't, I mean,
But we're not
I'm just-
entitled to get any grant.
No, I know, but for the people who are not aware of that, what I worry about is 2 years from now, this document might surface, and you might say, well, in this document, you said we could get 20 to 125, and at the end of the day, we're only gonna get X amount. I'm just worried about, I'm just trying to be protective of you guys.
I appreciate that. I
So-
think,
So if I just put, we estimate the amount of state reimbursement for our project for eligible expenses.
well,
Yeah, it doesn't sound good, it could be though.
I mean, we have, and I'm not, I understand your point, so thank you. We have the word estimate, we have could be, and approximately all before it.
Yeah.
Sounds pretty much like, hey,
I think we've got
we're
a
just
lot of
taking a
wiggle room
snapshot of
built
what the
in.
historical
Yeah.
based on, I mean,
The phrase eligible expenses is just a good educational phrase for the people who are reading this, because MSBA, you know, we don't know what they're gonna consider to be eligible or not eligible for 3 years from now.
For our
also.
project.
if we're not changing too much.
Yeah.
That would be a wild card.
It's just really just one word,
Bricks are not
you know, it's.
reimbursable.
Well,
Bricks are not.
we don't even say cost, we just say the dollar value, that's the only.
Teresa had a good way to phrase it. We
ahead.
estimate the amount of state reimbursement for our project's eligible expenses to be.
Yes.
That's fine.
Not could be, to be approximately.
That's good. That just makes it a little bit safer for you guys.
And what about the other could be?
I think the could is kind of covers that one, I like the change you guys made there, that's fine.
And then the only other thing I was gonna mention on the slide deck was, I think the Wheelock, challenges, wouldn't there also be a probable loss of field space there? You had that at Dale, but I think it was the same at Wheelock.
Yeah, I didn't think we went through every single, there was 83 other things on there that didn't make the list, so we kind of.
Yeah, we went with the
picked the
most,
top couple.
the ones that had the most comments.
Most often.
Did you have traffic on that one too?
Yeah,
Yeah,
traffic
On the
was one.
survey, yeah, and it's on here.
Okay, I didn't see that one. That was it.
Great.
Wait, I did have traffic on there, where'd it go?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I didn't see it, but.
Traffic's on there.
You did have it on.
It was one of the pros and cons.
Oh, it's
It was a pro, wasn't it, maybe? Was that it?
for the Dale renovation.
I guess for the people who are gonna be at those things, there was a misconception that there'd be more buses. The bus pattern would stay the same, because all the buses go to all the schools today, and they would still go to all the schools, no matter what.
Yeah,
the-
there's
I think, yeah, but the traffic issue, we never really,
I'm
You
just
know.
saying, there was an infrastructure
traffic
report
study.
that came out a year later that showed the traffic increase.
I had that one, I don't understand what I did with it, but.
traffic study timing was in the middle of COVID.
Yeah.
Couldn't really do it.
Okay. Motion adjourned?
Second.
We're gonna meet the subcommittee.
So you keep it on then?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
could you mute it? That's what, we're gonna mute it and then we'll unmute it when we start. Is there someone who would like to, be with our host Bill to give the update that we post on the Facebook?
I'm sorry, I was gonna, did someone second his meeting, I was gonna close it.
Oh, I forgot I said, I'm sorry.
Someone did second.
Did we second Bill's motion? Meredith did. Michelle, you good?
I think you muted her.
Sorry, I'm good. Michelle Kirkby, yes.
Peter Michelson, yes.
Mike Bummer, yes.
Meredith Chamberlain, yes.
Tony Evan Torres, yes.
Bill Warner, yes.
Paul Meany, yes?
John Messina, yes.
Carolyn Casey, yes.
Teresa James, yes.
Leo Brem, yes.
Thank you.